Hey group, it's Fit. We're back with some more typology. Today we're going to be digging into one of the heroes that you probably don't know about. This guy is Colion Noir. That's not his real name. It's a stage name. I think Colion is his real name, but the Noir is not. You probably never heard of him. He is a Second Amendment advocate. He has been fighting the good fight for a while. And this is a viewer recommend for a typology video, so we're going to go ahead and dig into him. I've been following him for a long time. I did not make the transfer. Like a lot of the people that I follow on my private channel haven't made the transfer over here yet. And this was one of them. So Shannon, thank you for reminding me that I needed to do this. I got him. He's subbed up now, or I'm subbed up to him now. And we're going to go ahead and dig in and see what we got for typology with him. So, with no further ado, let's dig in. We're about 5 minutes into the video, into the interview. This is not an antagonistic interview. He should be settled in. He should be ready to talk about what he wants to talk about. Let's see where we go.
There aren't that many of us out there. Yeah. And you take this individual whose only interactions with black people is by way of media. Absolutely. Right? Besides hypermasculinity, I can't, and that's more from a romantic side of things, but besides that, I can't think of anything from the media side that is obscenely positive being shining light of.
And that's all media. That's not, exactly. That's what people say, oh, it's Fox News. No. Yeah, that's CNN. Yeah, that's your local media. Yeah. That's New York Times. That's Atlanta Journal-Constitution. That's all your media. Yeah,
I'm going to have to check out Killer Mike, too. I'm already digging his energy. Like, this is the very first time I've ever had any dealings whatsoever with Killer Mike. I jumped ahead 5 minutes. I don't know what happened the previous 5 minutes of this. I jumped ahead 5 minutes. It's a long-form interview. I'm going to have to check him out and get him in here, too. Yeah. So far, already, I'm picking up informative from Colion. I think it's Colion. I've never heard it pronounced.
Maybe they project the message differently.
National Geographic just came out. They had a black professor to do essentially a reverse editorial on all of the National Geographic has been to this point. And they said, we've been overtly racist. Yeah. We have made black and brown people caricatures. We've sensationalized the noble savage. Yeah. We've even sexually been suggestive with topless.
He's listing ideas. Like, we may wind up getting both of them on the same one. He's listing ideas, and this is an informative field to this, too. And I'm picking up a movement vibe.
They said National Geographic says this. So if the National Geographic has subtle or overt racism, what do you think your evening news? Because it's exciting. I don't always agree with anyone, right? So there have been things that you've disagreed with me. There's been that I disagree with you as friends. We've talked, right? But there was something dead on that the woman who's an NRA spokesman said. And everyone just kind of lost it. What's her name? Dana. Dana said something. I don't agree with everything Dana says, but Dana says that.
This is 2018 as well. Like, this is a few years back, 18, 19, 20, 21. So at least we're 3 years over 3.5 years. So this is a whole different situation than the current situation we're in. But I know exactly what he's talking about with this because it concerned me too.
The tears of white mothers are like ratings. And that's so true. And it was so sad to hear her acknowledge it. Yeah. But it's true. And black people know it's true because black people say it in conversations in coffee houses to themselves.
Think about it. So for me, for instance, right? And
okay, that interruption right there is an informative trait. He didn't let him finish it all out. Direct people tend to let you finish your conversation before they jump in, and then they say the least amount they have to say before letting you continue. That's just how that works. The interruption of someone else while they're talking is an informative trait. Now, this is supposed to be an interview that Killer Mike is giving for Colion. It seems like maybe Killer Mike's giving more of the information out. I don't know. We're like a minute in.
It's not personal, but yeah. So for instance, I don't know her name. A whole girl from BET. She does this show. I don't know. I posted on it on my Instagram.
Yeah. He's a little bit confused about the sensory here. He's not organizing that thing.
Page. And she turned it into a joke almost.
Yeah.
Right? And I know that's her shtick.
Yeah.
It's cool. It is what it is. But, you know, she kind of poked fun at that very statement because she's like, she called for her black up, which was me, she was referring to, and then called me something I thought was actually pretty funny. She called me the Second Amendment Ja Rule.
I'm with it.
I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. Take your shirt off and dance for him, baby.
But, you know, what Dana said was very real.
Yeah.
Right? And trying to undermine it just because it came from Dana's mouth and not from a black woman's mouth. It doesn't make it any less.
Does that? Because the truth is the truth. No matter if you like it, if you like the truth or not, it's just the truth. You know what I mean? The truth is black.
That's some organized idea right there. The truth is the truth, whether you like it or not. It's very organized ideas. That is some shit that I say often.
Life in this country is undervalued. No matter which side you talk about. If you talk about, I'm a Democrat and I
like that shirt too. I like that shirt a lot.
Yeah, but the Democrats were the pushers of the crime bill.
Yep.
And this is what I warn my African American friends who have strong feelings that are anti-gun. You calling for this, or you potentially are siding with people who really don't care about what you're saying. And what do you mean by that? I remember when every black preacher, every black politician, and every black mom and dad was calling for tougher drug laws. Yeah. But the tougher drug laws only came to their sons because 5 grams of crack, which is what poor people sold, was equivalent to 500 grams of cocaine, which is what mid-level drug dealers could afford. Weren't no mid-level drug dealers. They were catching boys, 18, 19, 21-year-old boys.
And it's absolutely set up that way. It is. I'm not going to lie and tell you that it's only black people getting locked up. But it was set up that way. It was set up to catch them. Like, the drug war in itself, in its entirety, is set up to keep people in slavery. White or black, it don't matter. They want you enslaved. That's what the prison system is. Prison system is slavery. Like, in the Constitution, as slavery. Like, I don't know how you can argue against that. But it's not just about one melanin tone. It's not. I know plenty of people in jail right now behind meth. Yeah, cocaine's a whole different issue. Cocaine and crack, 2 different things. Meth and crack, pretty fucking equivalent. You feel me?
These boys kept 12, 15, 20-year sentences. Many of them are just coming home, but we cheered that on because we thought we were with allies. But your allies didn't reciprocate.
That's some tribe pushback right there. Like, I'm trying to get Colion in here. I might have to do another interview with him.
And one thing I appreciated about Clinton, when they were grilling him on it, Clinton said, your people asked for this. So the first time
He's definitely got an informative vibe.
People got the right to vote, it was only black men because America was a patriarchal society, right? In places like South Carolina, irony of South Carolina, those black men went in a church to vote. The Klan came to make sure that vote couldn't happen. Yep. Black women surrounded that church with rifles and defended those men.
Yep.
Black women need to understand that as a unit, we have done more with a gun to protect our rights and freedoms than we are accredited for. Ida B. Wells, one of the most...
I am an advocate of everyone carrying. Like, I think there should be a judicial process to remove, if necessary, your right to carry arms. But until that judiciary process has completed, you should be able to carry whatever, whenever. I think you should be like, we used to have them in the cars at school. Like, nobody got shot. Nobody even thought about shooting somebody. I grew up, I don't remember learning gun safety. It was a part of my life. Like, it was something that I learned how to eat, I learned how to drink, I learned how to walk, I learned how to handle guns safely. It's that ingrained in me.
Famous scholars and educators that our culture has ever produced.
And this is turning into a reaction video.
Right? Chicagoan, right? Ida B. Wells housing projects. Ida B. Wells said every black home should have...
He is definitely informative. And a little bit on the control side. He's controlling this conversation. Like, he's moving his hands, yes. That lends towards movement. But he's making a point. He's expounding upon his point. And he's bringing it back tightly into the box that he's wanting it to be in. That is control.
Have a Winchester rifle. Well, what's the significance of a Winchester rifle? It's a repeating rifle. It is essentially...
That is organized sensory.
Actually, the AR...
He's letting you know right there why this is the best of this thing. That is organized sensory. If you're telling somebody why this is the best, this is why you should use this one, this is like that. If that's the process, then that is organized sensory.
R15 of its day. She didn't say some black homes. She didn't say just black homes with black fathers. She didn't say single.
He's bringing in the possibilities there. That is a gather ideas. We don't get many examples of gather ideas. It's a hard one to get examples of. We're going to run that back. This is definitely going to wind up being Killer Mike and Colion. It has to be. But we're going to bring that back.
Rifle. It is essentially the
That was organized sensory. That was organized things right there.
AR-15 of its day. She didn't say some black homes. She didn't say just black homes with black fathers. She didn't say single.
That's 3 possibilities. That is gather ideas. That is an excellent example of gather ideas. I'm glad that I've stumbled across this because it is really hard to find examples of the NE in practical use. This is good. Most of the people in public life tend to be organized. That's how they wind up getting like they are. Unless you are about, give me all the new things, which a lot of these rappers that I don't cover are. They're about, give me new things. Show me the things. Give me the bling. That is gather things. Whereas this is a gather ideas. This possibility, this possibility, this possibility. She had all these possibilities and she chose this one. Is a gathers ideas. I like that. That's a really good example.
Said all black homes should have a Winchester rifle.
All homes, period.
So,
I'm not going to get on that.
It always amazes me when we side politically with things that are not advantageous for us. If you're only 54 years out of apartheid, no other group of people would voluntarily disarm.
He had to interrupt. We've been in this interview now for, 6 minutes? He hasn't spoken but maybe 30 seconds out of that 6 minutes. This is supposed to be an interview of him.
When I have
that is a movement thing. Allowing someone else to speak like that. Now, he had to interrupt. I'm not going to pin informative on him. I'm hoping to get some examples of what Colion's done, his type here. But that is a movement trait. That he's allowing the interviewer to talk that long without interrupting is a movement trait. That's flexing around the ideas. I do this because it's a great example for me of flexing around an idea. It's like grabbing a cup. Your hand flexes around it. In control, you're rigid and everything gets pulled back into your box. Whereas with movement, you flex around the ideas. All right, now let's see if we can pick up something off of this.
These conversations a lot of times with my own people.
Y'all say you had a conversation with the sister.
I mean, a lot of times it is the sisters. And there's the whole aspect of the unequal application of the laws as they stand towards black people.
Yeah.
And so then I have to look at them and I say, okay, well, if you understand that, then why would you be for them applying more gun control laws?
Makes no sense.
Where do you think they're going to enforce those?
That is to gather ideas, or that's organized ideas. Why would you think, if you have this example, why would you think outside of this box?
They're not going to do it in the suburbs.
Get this. Let's do it so it's only in urban areas. Well, you live in urban areas. Let's do it so that people with, what do they say? Let's do it so you don't want people who are mentally unstable, right? All right, so we know the white men shooting up shit been mentally unstable, right? But whose children are more misdiagnosed with ADHD?
All of them. Almost entirely. Everyone that is diagnosed with that is wrong. Yeah, I know. I just pissed somebody off. I'm always pissing somebody off. Most of the ADHD, most of the OCD, most of the Asperger's, and all of the things that people are diagnosed with can be brought back to this. It can. All right, let's get back into it.
Black boys are more misdiagnosed with ADHD than any other group of people.
He's looking specifically for that. That's why he found that. That's the truth. More white people are diagnosed. Therefore, more white people have to be misdiagnosed. The math is there. I don't give a shit about melanin. People do. Other people care greatly about melanin. He's one of them. He's got a shirt on that says "In Racism." But his focus is on racism. It is. And if your focus is on racism all the time, guess what? You're probably there.
Right? More black.
And that doesn't mean that you're not trying to work through it. It doesn't mean that you're focusing your life on hate. But if your entire focus is on this class is being oppressed because of this, not to say that that doesn't happen, because it absolutely does. And I'm on your side every time it does. Did y'all hear that? Wow, that was close, bruh. That was a fighter jet, like close, bruh. We don't have that here. Wonder what the fuck's going on. Yo, anyway, if you're focused on that, if that is your focus, sorry, you're racist.
Tried to do that to my oldest boy. We're not putting him on Ritalin. We're going to change his diet, take Ritalin. We're not going to have my son.
It's about working through issues. That is what it is. That is about learning control. It is about learning focus. Most people with ADHD or these things that they're diagnosed with are movement dominants, like, to an extreme. Informative movement dominants that are self, bro. That's just like, oh my God, they must have to have some medicine. There's a reason they told you not to let a pharmacist live.
Like a zombie. So imagine what happens the day they say, well, mental illness, and all of a sudden your child has been labeled mentally ill, and you know your child is normal. Yeah. You know your child, honestly, the school environment is just not, you're not supposed to lock a child up for 10 hours a day.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Let them play. Get that energy out, especially the movement dominance. Like my main driver behind this is to hopefully one day get it accepted enough that we can teach this in elementary school. Because if we can teach this in elementary school, it is going to bring about a change in this country. It absolutely will. If you can understand just the concept that people think differently than you is a large step for most people. Just to think that not everybody needs to fit into the same box. That's coming from an anti-dominant. Not everybody needs to be in the same box. There are different boxes for different people, and that is not to put people in a box, but that is to say that you process your information in a very specific way. Your specific way falls into these categories. It does. And if you can understand that, if the teachers in these classes could understand this instead of the bullshit that they're taught at these colleges before they go and teach your children, everybody would benefit. Everybody in the class would benefit from knowing that Billy's control. He has to have things a certain way. He has to pull that shit into his box. But Jamal's a little bit movement. And instead of giving him Ritalin, let's give him a little extra time to play. Let's give him some time to burn off that energy. Let's give our informative children a chance to be informative instead of walking around like this. I get so sick when I see these pictures of these kids in these schools walking down the hall like this. Eating, like, my children had silent lunch. I lost my shit when I found out that they made these children sit silently at lunch. The only time they've got to socialize at all, you make them sit silently? Man, fuck you.
So we don't even think about how these things are going to play against us. We just get caught up in the emotion of we're married to this political party. We're married to this political ideology. These are our allies and we're doing what they say do. But the minute it's an issue for just you
again, that was some gathered ideas. Political, like he's showing you multiple boxes. That's gather ideas. He's a very good example of gather ideas.
Standing there by yourself. Because I don't like the meme culture, but some memes make a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
Like in Britain, the average cop.
He is definitely informative. He's definitely controlled. Definitely gather, and he's definitely ideas. I'm a little shook on tribe or self. I'm thinking he might be more self, which is okay. Self does not mean selfish. Self means that you use whatever for yourself first before you give it to the tribe. Tribe means that you give it to the tribe before you take your part of it. That is the differentiation there. This seems to be more of a self, let's get these ideas gathered for me, and then I'm going to give them to you. That's what it feels like.
Walking the beat don't have a gun, right? When cops keep accidentally shooting the shit out of black men, I never see your allies saying, let's de-arm cops, let's de-arm. That doesn't happen. So
we dealt extensively with that. I'm not going to get on that soapbox. You want to see my position on that soapbox? I have plenty of examples.
It's foolish for you. Our republic isn't neat and it isn't clean, and the Bill of Rights and the Constitution aren't always in a tidy box. But I promise you, as I travel the world, it's the best thing going today.
I get on that a lot. I do. That's my box.
It's not always. It can be messy.
But I think
there is no other place for freedom on the entire planet. This is it.
we're a victim of our own success in that regard.
I agree.
Colion is saying a lot of we statements, whereas Mike is saying a lot of me statements. That's the difference. Like, this is a good example of the difference between gather ideas, and so far I'm picking up organize ideas. Poor Colion is movement, so he's flexing around Mike. He's not getting a lot of playtime on this. Mike is. I'm leaning more towards direct, just because when Colion says something, he's getting to the point. We're having a harder time with him because he's not getting a lot of time.
Right. I know when you have something for so long, especially when we talk about the generations that come into, even me, right? Some things with respect to my freedom, I didn't always feel this way.
Yeah.
There were things that I learned about and come upon them as time went on.
And that even me is more of a tribe thing. Like, even me is me last. Like, that's what he just said. Even me. That's me last.
But we get to a point where we're like, oh, why do we need this? We don't need this anymore. Yeah. We're so progressive. We progress past this point. Yeah. I'm like, you're gonna progress us right off a cliff. Yeah. You keep going in this direction.
You're gonna progress us into slavery.
Like,
Like, you know, people say, oh, slavery can't exist. Slavery does exist now.
Yeah.
Slavery exists according to the 13th Amendment.
They never abolished
the same people who.
Not only that, here goes my soapbox again. Right now, there are people literally being sold on blocks and manacles in an open air market as slaves. That is happening right now. Look it up.
Telling you we need to abolish the Second Amendment. They ain't there for the documentary 13. Yeah. They're not there at your march to end that. You know, that begins to be my question. Like, what is an ally?
Yeah, we're going to gather some ideas real quick in a controlling way. Like he is. He's gathering these ideas in a controlling way.
Because an ally is not necessarily a friend. Yeah. Right? It's not necessarily, it's not fam. We have a mutual interest in something that progresses us both. Yep. Why are your allies not fighting your other fights with the same vigor you're fighting these? Like I told my kids on the school walkout, I love you. If you walk out that school, walk out my house.
Yes, sir. That is parenting. That is parenting right there.
So that's simple. We are a gun-owning family. Yeah. We are a family where my sister farms. We're a family where we'll fish, we'll hunt, but we are not a family that jumps on every single thing an ally of ours does, because some stuff we just don't agree with.
That is self too.
I just don't agree.
And control. That is an example of self and control right there.
With black people.
Not self-control, but self and control. It is self-control. I was making a joke.
People disarm.
Don't be so serious.
We own less than 1% of the guns in this country, right? So it ain't like a lot of you armed already, and a lot less. Not
anymore. Brothers are arming up. I'm down with that too. Like, I am a full-on 2A supporter. I think you should be able to have a black hole. I do. I really do. I think you should be able to have a rocket-propelled grenades, missile launchers, like the whole shebang. I think you should be able to, as long as you are not a danger to others, you should be able to own whatever you want. Whatever. That includes tanks, artillery, that includes fully automatic weapons. All of it should be yours. That is what you are guaranteed by the Second Amendment. The best weaponry possible to fight tyranny. That is what we are guaranteed.
Most of you all are training. More black people should be owning guns. More Americans should be training, period. White.
Let's gather some more ideas real quick.
Or black. Because when you say things like, oh, well, tyranny could never happen, or they have drones that will drop against us and the things, so why ain't we took Afghanistan yet?
2018. March of 2018.
So
The crazy thing is that, because I do hear that too, and I'm like, all right, cool. So then give me those weapons.
yeah.
So since you think I can't use these guns to stop tyranny, let me have those weapons.
Yes.
And
Give
then
me
they
the
get
bazooka.
quiet.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, exactly. I'm asking for an AR-15.
Yeah.
I'm not even asking for a drone.
He's organizing the century right there.
We are a country not because our military was superior to Britain. We didn't have a navy. We didn't have a superior military. What we had were farmers with long rifles that at the time Britain would engage, they'd come up, muzzle low, shoot, next one come up, shoot. Well, we couldn't win that. We were outnumbered. We didn't have but what we did have was farmers that could hide behind trees, and as they walked back, knocked them off. And after so long, it just became that empire was just like, you know what? We can't control these cows. Let's get the fuck out of here. And you say, well, that was then. What about the Maroons of Jamaica? What about the freedom fighters of Brazil? Even down into the 60s. So
Atypical warfare. That's where we're at.
exactly. We couldn't beat the Viet Cong for that. So
Or Afghanistan.
just like at a certain point, I love my progressive white friends and audience, but
That was a lie.
you don't know what the fuck you're talking
That was a lie.
about. Because you've never even owned a shotgun. You don't know anything about it. And I'm not saying, I think war's coming tomorrow. I'm saying if someone kicks in the door of my house, like they did that football player years back, Sean, I would like for my wife to be able to know that shotgun gives her a fighting chance. My wife's in Atlanta alone right now. There's an AR-15 next to her bed, there's a shotgun by her bed, and there's a Glock 27 by her bed. So one of them you gonna get if you get through that door. So you know what I mean?
Here's all the possibilities. This is a great example of his type. I'm still struggling to get Colion.
I don't want to live in a world where that's not a possibility. My Australian fans hit me sometimes like, Mike, you guys are crazy, mate. You should get rid of, but I landed.
Fuck Australia, they're in a dire situation. Like nobody from Australia ever gets to have any part of the argument anymore. None. I'm sorry. If you're from down under, I love you. I do. Move up here. You're in tyranny. Period. The end.
In Australia in January, and the first newspaper I picked up was
I
how
remember you said that to me.
the Gold Coast. More elderly women who are retired, houses are being broken into, they're buying more guns than anyone. You know, and criminals are not going to turn their guns in.
No, and I try to explain, like when it comes to my self-defense or defense of my family and the people that I love, if that time comes, this is not about a competition of fairness.
Nah.
I don't want it to be fair. Nah. I want to have the most effective tool possible to deal with whatever it is that's threatening me.
Absolutely.
Most effective tool possible is an organized century.
And I don't understand why people always want to, they want to legislate everything down to a fair competition. Somebody decides that they want to take my life, they've lost the ability to have a fair competition.
there's no fair.
It's done.
Yeah.
There's no fair.
And and that's the thing that.
And that's an organized idea. That's why it's so hard for him. I wish he had more playtime in this.
Kind of, it boggles my mind a little bit when we have these conversations. Well, conversations that you and I are having, because right now to me that's not the conversation we're having. No. We're not. It's largely being dominated by, like, for instance, your progressive white friends, right, who don't even own guns. Yeah. So now I'm.
That's an organized idea.
Sitting here, I know more about guns in this pinky,
and you're never
doing their whole mind, but they're on national stage talking to me and telling me why I should get rid of my gun.
Yeah, I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about.
It's at a point now I have to laugh from crying.
And I love our sisters. Like, I love my aunts, I love my cousins. You know what I mean? My family is a bigger pro-gun family. But you know, our family members it's not. But my thing is, like, what do the men in your family say? You know, most black men I know think like you and I. And that's just the most Southern men, black or white, think like you and I.
That's the tip right there. We really, really need to move past this melanin issue. I understand the argument. I really do. I really, really do. We've got to get past it. We do. We have to squash that somehow. Without blood, hopefully. Like, I'm really and earnestly hoping that we can squash that without blood. Because I'm raising my children that way. I am raising my children to not give a shit about your color. They're going to call you out if you're wrong. They're going to support you if you're right. Period.
You know, my question becomes, like, let's open up the conversation for real. Like, let's take the town halls to barbershops and see how the conversation changes. You know what I mean? Because I'm just not willing to accept you telling me on Monday my president is Hitler, and then telling me Tuesday to dearm. That didn't go well. That didn't go well for Jewish people when Hitler was in reign in Germany. Yeah. Why would I repeat the same mistake? See, I've never called my president Hitler. Yeah. But when you say that, I need you to understand the gravity of what you're saying to me, because I'm only 54 years into freedom. And that's what most people never get when they try to have this conversation with an African American. You're talking from a place of privilege. And I'm not saying, oh, you're white privilege. No, you're talking from a place of privilege. You ain't been a fucking slave. Yeah.
Canadian, Irish, Native American. Show me the privilege. Show it to me. You know what my privilege is? Bust my ass. And we're the only place that freed people was? All right.
You ain't lived in apartheid. You don't live in a current...
Here we go. The school I went to in Jackson, Louisiana, when I graduated in 1995, was 80% black. I got my ass beat a lot, simply because I was a white dude. You can say what you want. I walked through the ghettos. I have been there. I lived in the fucking hood. I've been there. But when I tell you these things, I feel these things. You hear me? If you keep lingering on this, it's going to be a problem. I'm not going to cause that problem. But there are people that are going to cause that problem. Because there has to be some peaceful squashing of this shit. And we can't keep bringing up history. I get it. The history is recent. The history is fresh. I get that. It's still fresh for some of my ancestors too. And they just color. You feel me? I may not be as dark as that, but I am not a fully white fella. Like, I'm not. I look like it, but I'm not. So my people are still like on reservations right now. The federal government is still telling some of my people what they can and cannot do on their own property. That's still happening right now. They're still telling people that they can't police themselves. That is still happening right now in Oklahoma. That is still happening right now. So you're not the last oppressed race. I get it. I do. I really do. Slavery was fucking horrible. Slavery is the history of the fucking world. Before 1776, everybody on the planet belonged to somebody else. Everybody. You were a serf, you were a slave, all of these things, you were still property until people took guns and changed that. And then in 1860s, we took guns and we changed that shit again. My side won the Civil War. My side fought for freedom. The most blood spilled on this soil was for the freedom of this man sitting right here. You feel that? And you know who died? You know whose blood that was? That was white people's blood. All right? Now, I get that it's recent. I get that. I am going to make this argument fervently everywhere. I am not against black. I am not against brown. I am not against yellow. I'm not against white. Like, I don't care. I really don't care. But I do get spun up when I hear these arguments because they are factually not valid.
System where if a black boy is shot in the middle of the street by an agent of the government, he is assumed guilty.
Yeah. That is not always true. Sometimes it is. Now, sometimes it is. But remember Mike Brown? Mike Brown was fucking guilty. I was mad as a motherfucker. I spun up. I was screaming and crying about Mike Brown. Then we find out about what happened, bro. George Floyd, I saw that. And by that point, I was so worn out. I was like, I'm going to wait and see what up. And I watched the fucking videos. All of them. And the shit that they showed in the trials that y'all that didn't go look for him, didn't get to see, I saw that shit. So I knew, and I saw what was happening. That was a setup. There's a reason why George Floyd's name was spread from one end of the country to the other, but Tony Timpa was not. There's a reason for that.
You don't know what that is. So in those matters, you should just do like my grandfather said: stay out of other folks' business.
That's what I'm at.
Because if you're not going to rally in the streets to ratify the 13th Amendment with me, if you're not going to rally in the streets that agents of the state shouldn't be able to kill black boys in the streets or white men who might be drunk in a hotel, if you're not going to rally against me, shut up asking me to rally for you, because you're wrong. Because you're not giving me the equality that you're telling me that you want to give everyone else. And that's wrong. And it's almost evil for you to do that, because you're using me. You're pulling me into the Democratic National Convention, me and a bunch of other mothers, and you're parading me in front of the world. But you have nothing to do. You don't make sure those agents of the states pay. They don't pay with their pension. They don't pay with their jobs because they retire and go on to another force.
I'm with this now.
You know, there have been...
I'm with this if you take the color out of it. I don't care. I tried to get... I tried. I did. I really did. Back when I was still on Twitter, I was hitting everybody with it. When George Floyd went down, I said, all right, here's what we can do. I want an independent body appointed by the Congress and ratified by the Senate to investigate every single use of force by the police. I want them to not be related to the police in any way. No former officers, no lawyers, no judges, none of that. Completely independent panel, voted on by the Congress, ratified by the Senate, with an exchange every 6 years without being able to serve twice. Like, that is how we can move forward. That is some actual physical legislation that we can bring forward to bring some clarity to these situations. We don't need this grand jury situation. The way the grand juries work is they give you the evidence that they want you to see. That is all you will see, is what they want you to see in order to get the trial. And then when you get in the trial, they're not required to show you all the evidence. They're not. They're required to show the defense the evidence if they plan on presenting it. That is a terrible fucking thing. But that is colorblind. That is terrible for everybody.
Times I've been unsatisfied with NRA too. I thought when they marched a tank down the street of Ferguson, NRA should have been there like, ho, 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 all this other shut aside. This is military. We don't go for that. They didn't. But this is the same NRA that allowed Robert F. Williams to have a chapter in North Carolina in the 50s to defend itself against the Klan. This is the same NRA that defended Marissa Alexander for your stand your ground law just a year ago in Florida. So for me, I don't look at the NRA like a person that doesn't like or not like me. I look at the NRA as an effective lobbying group for my rights. So what does that mean, Michael? That means that if it's an...
I'm going to speed this up just a little bit. I got to try and get some Colion in.
An effective party. We were all Democrats because it made the Democratic Party years to benefit.
It's the truth.
Go to the convention.
Couldn't state any truth in that.
Go to that are probably going to be friendly. That's the way you transform. And then
a lot, right? I get that question a lot, right? You know, I'll get messages from young black men, and they're talking to me. It's like, you know, I own guns. I'm quiet about it, but you know, but then I want to get out and shoot, but you know, I don't want to go out there and then deal with all the racist white people. So I'm like, and you know, it's like, to be honest with you, even when I started, I had the same thought process.
It's a logical fear.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I remember I'm like, man, I'm about to go out here in the middle of nowhere, be around these crazy white people. They're gonna hang me. But there was this rebelliousness in me that was kind of like, I found a passion. And no one was going to get in the way of that passion. And I said, you know, forget that. I'm going to go.
Absolutely.
And I went, and my mind was blown, completely blown. Not to the point of naivete, where I'm completely naive to the aspects and circumstances in this country, but to the point where, like you just pointed out, we had a common interest. They understood they understood we were from two different backgrounds, completely different, right? Yeah. But we had a common interest. And that's all that mattered at that time. That's all that mattered. And in my mind, I'm like, I will take a gun from a KKK member before I give up my gun to the non-KK member asking me to do so. Yeah. it just doesn't make any sense.
I'm gonna lie.
That's an interesting way to put it.
Around freedom of expression. I got
a little bit of tribe off of that. I did. I got a little bit of movement off of that. I'm getting a little bit of informative off of that. It's hard with him. He's not getting enough time to really talk about where he's at, things or ideas. I've got a lot of organized ideas off of Colion. I've got a little bit of the Gather Things, where he's showing the possibility of the things when he was talking about the AR-15 or when he's talking about the different things, but it doesn't seem to be the highlight of what he says. I'm going to try and get a little bit more and confirm, but I've got organize ideas off of Colion. I've got gather ideas off of Killer Mike.
And then some. I'm usually pissing two groups of people off, either black friends. Mike did not realize that because if I start, hey Mike, we have to do something. I thought that for me,
that's informative.
Country.
You see how much
but it's the terms of having you will find no
and control.
Is not only have to make sure philosophy that we also
and this is how people utilize.
Right. That's not by accident.
And the interesting thing is how people utilize. The interesting thing for me is how people utilize the First Amendment so adamantly. To talk about doing away with the Second Amendment. You just don't see that nonsense, and that makes sense in your mind. Like, what type of mental gymnastics do you have to do in order to justify in your mind, I'm going to use my First Amendment right to talk about and advocate getting rid of this person?
Okay, now this is some organized ideas. He's like, my box is already sorted. How can you use this for this that doesn't go in that box? That is organized ideas. And I picked up mostly organized ideas from him. He is good for some SE though. Like I follow him. He talks very much about the specifics of weaponry. He talks about the situations in which weaponry would be the best. I came into this preconceived for an SE. I did, because I thought, or an SI. And I'm getting NI off of him. That's why I prefer to do this rather than his own show. He does his own show. But in a show situation, you're not really showing yourself. In this interview, he's showing himself. He's showing that he's movement. He's letting the interviewer do all of the talking. He's informative. He's not direct. He's informative. Because when he's allowed to speak with his movement, then he's very informative about what he's saying. He's giving several examples. He's expounding upon the subject as much as he's allowed to before he's interrupted. I'm going to go ahead and type them out. We're going to do both of them. I'm going to go ahead and do my transition over. We'll do Mike first, just because he took up most of the time, and he was ideas, and he was gathered. He was self. He is very controlled, but he is definitely informative. If we're going to calculate that out, I'm not going to run through these. I'm going to have to do a different one with each one of the different types. I'm just going to have to do that. But he's an INTP alt. He's got TI hero, NE parent, got FE child, and SI inferior. TE nemesis, NI critic, FI trickster, SE demon. That's the top half of the stack, the bottom half of the stack. I wish I had the time to go through, but like we're already way over what I was trying for this. So we're going to go ahead and check out Colion. We're going to reset it here. And he has organized ideas. He is self. No. Let's reset that. He has ideas, organized, and he is tribe. He is movement, and he's also informative. We're going to go ahead and calculate this one out. We got an ENFJ. That's FE hero, NI parent, SE child, TI inferior. That's the top half of the stack. That's the part that you use all the time. The FI nemesis, NE critic, SI trickster, and TE demon is going to be the bottom half of the stack. Where he doesn't understand how people can think things. That is that TE demon showing up. I will do, I'll probably interrupt this series that I'm doing of the heroes and demons, or heroes and arch villains, not demons. And go ahead and knock out the 32 videos on the specific types. So that's what's going to be coming. This is a long one. This is going to be a very long video. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. I'm going to exit out, and then we will transition over real quick. And we're going to wrap it up. Colion Noir, Killer Mike, I thank you for this. I appreciate it greatly. This was good examples of some things that I'm looking for, because I don't get examples of that very often dealing with the entertainment. To the crew, if you're still here, thanks for hanging out. This was a very long video. This is going to probably take me 2 hours to process and another hour to upload. Y'all get this afternoon at some point. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you were here with me. I am praying for you every single day. It's been Pitt's Take. Peace.